Hey, welcome back. Ed Knight here. We're going to be going over the Michael Hamilton Tunic list and what I expect that he and the Wolfpack were likely sideboarding at the events of the round 20k and the 10k. They had some deviations between their list. I know Fang was playing a couple of different blues, like one less blue and whatnot, playing a little bit more AB. If you're expecting a lot of cano, of course, you're going to want to play more AB type thing, but we're going to be going over Michael's list. I've been enjoying this one the most out of the couple lists that we've been seeing. One was played at Worlds and whatnot. Been testing this and doing well against the team, a little bit at Armories, and some just random Talishar games and whatnot. So hopefully you guys enjoy, get some use out of this, and we'll see what we can do for you. So let's just get right into it. Let's talk about the list, okay? I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so we can kind of go over what's going on. This is the stock that I generally see. I would not change these cards. For the most part, there are some cases where you do want to take out cards like Rousey Ancients because of the 2-block, and you're playing the smaller hammer anyway, so the value of going 7 go again into hammer is not as good without Anethos, right? So that's not generally the case. Even if you are playing Titan's Fist, you will still want to play this card because of your blue density. But if you can get more value in cards like Warmongers in those specific matchups, then you will just kind of like swap those around, right? So let's look at the core. The core we have here is, of course, Command and Conquer, Crippling, Pummel, Spinal, Starstruck. This is kind of our threat density, and then these blues almost never change, like I said. Okay, so we kind of landed on this Imposing Visage 2 and 1 as well for the Bravo list that we played at the Realm. The reasoning behind this is that we would rather see this card over this card, right? The Imposing over the Showtime, in a hand that is not turn 1. Of course, Showtime turn 1, amazing card, huge setup potential, right? But if you draw a 4 blue hand and it's Showtime as opposed to Imposing Visage, you can't really play that Showtime, whereas you can play the Imposing Visage, get whatever threat that you want. If you have Tunic on 3, because we're playing Tunic, right, then you can go get a card like Debilitate or Chokeslam and play it off of that immediately because of the go again that is just on the card inherently. And then your follow-up turn, you're going to have a 5-card hand if you don't block, or you can block efficiently and know that you're either A, drawing a threat, or if it's another blue, then you can swing your hammer for 6, right? So lots of good stuff. I have always loved this card ever since it came out, right? Very good card to play, but in this case, it's not always correct to play these staples in 3-ups anymore, especially if you are deviating from your normal loadout. So here we're playing Tunic. There is no tectonic plating in this deck. This deck is trying to play efficient hands as often as possible, which is why we are also playing Chokeslam and Debilitate, because these are very, very good with your 3rd Tunic counter and a blue. So you have this card and a blue, 3rd Tunic counter, right? You just get to play a 2-card 8, which is amazing, especially if the on-hit happens with these. This is a 2-card 10, right? So I've heard this kind of like referenced as this is just kind of playing Briar, the Bravo deck, because you're playing like your 2-card 7s if you're playing the Fatigue Briar style, or you're playing your 0-4s, just very efficient threats and good fundamentals of the deck, right? So, okay, we have our general blues. You play every single popper that you could ever play in your blue slot. That never changes. New card, Boulder Drop. This card is incredible. A lot of situations come up to where if you have a 4 blue hand, you've been sitting on a Pummel in your arsenal waiting for a good threat for it to pair with, like a Spinal or a Command and Conquer. If you get the blue hand, this is pretty decent, right? So you can block with one of those blues, save 3 life, play Boulder Drop, and you kind of make a miniature Crippling Crush, right? So card is not to be slept on. You can bluff with this card as well. So if you have like a couple of cards, because you blocked as efficiently as you could. Your opponent did not extend as far as you wanted. You have like your 3 blues in your hand. You can just play it, and it will usually request more than just the one card that is required to stop the effect, right? So, of course, Rouse the Ancients. This card is an all-star in this deck. You have so many high-costed cards. You can turn this on super consistently, especially with the Bolter drop. That's another consideration for this card. A 5+8 makes 13. Now you have your Go again, and you're +7. Okay. Auto Grande, busted card. James White hates these 8 attack blues for proper reason, right? Like, these cards are just insane. And then Tear Asunder with your Anethos, or even Titan's Fist, depending on the matchup if they don't have a bunch of armor. Very good card. Okay. So these cards almost never change. We almost never take out any of these. I think in the board plan now, I don't take out Pummel ever. Like, that card, the whole point of the deck is to play stuff efficiently with Pummel lines, or playing your your Debilitates or your Choke Slams, right? So the general math, right, is you have a blue, you have Pummel, you have Command and Conquer, you have Tunic counter. That's 4 resources for your 2+2, and it's Blowout City. If you do that once a game, then you generally are winning that game. So, not always. So don't get complacent and you made the play and then you're like, oh, I won this game. That is not the case. You still got to play tight. You make one misplay with this deck, it costs you the game very easily, especially against something like Ninja, where it's like very 50-50 with this style of list, right? Okay, so sideboard, we're playing 4 Chokeslam, 4 Debilitate. I keep saying we. This is Michael Hamilton's list, okay? I don't want to take credit for their innovation and whatnot. Like, this is their style, and I think the ratios in this deck are awesome. So they landed on, we landed on, I'm playing this, they're playing this. We're going to collectively play it together, right? So, but full credit to them, of course. Chokeslam, Debilitate, E-Strike. This card has impressed me in Bravo. I've played it in the past before with tech plating, but with Tunic in the list, this card is awesome, especially in the mirror. People sleep on this card in the mirror. We have Civic Steps now. You know what happens with Civic Steps is you give your opponent a Quicken token. Well, what can you do with that Quicken token? Okay, you can build your own Zealous Belting. Forgot the name of the card for a second. Build your own Zealous Belting with a Boulder Drop. Then you can, if you have your Tunic counter, you can do kind of the same thing with your Chokeslam. And then with E-Strike, you can even, let's say you have your 2-card hand, right? It's E-Strike, whatever card, some X, and you're very likely to draw blue based on the ratios you've seen throughout the game. You draw a card, and then also, there you go. You have like another go again attack. Or you can go buff attack, you already have a card in hand, it gains go again, now you have a pretty decent turn in general. Let me turn this music down just a touch. Bear with me. Okay. So, the rest, some of the weird stuff here, we'll talk about, like, so you're always playing Paper Scene, you're playing Sink Below, you're playing Zealous Belting. Those are, like, pretty stock in all the Bravo lists now. Paper Scene is in and out every once in a while. If you expect a lot of things like Azalea and the mirror and whatnot, you can change that to something like Immovable, red specifically. That's not bad, but this is just better in all the like random decks. And we're in a meta right now where there are a bunch of random decks. There's a lot of things that are just viable, right? So these are the more just like inherently good into a lot of things. So we're playing those, right? The yellow Disable, you know, this can be swapped around. I ended up playing something like a Pulverize in the round TIG-K over the yellow Zealous, or the yellow Disabled. And that was fine. It's just you're running a risk if you're playing something like Pulverize, because you can notice that there's no Pulverize in this list, because we are on, and you can't see it behind my head, 33 blues in the main. And then we have 5 on the side. So total, it's 38, right? Total. The maximum that you will ever play is 38. And most of the time, we're cutting down to 35, sometimes even 33. Okay, I know that's blasphemy to a lot of the Bravo grandfathers out there, you know, like me, been playing Bravo forever. yeah, you don't want to go below like 36 almost ever, and then most of the time you want to stay at like the 39 number, even 38. I've been kind of playing around with 38, but I never went down that until I started playing something like this list. So disable, it's kind of like an honorary blue in a way. Once you have your tunic counter, you can just kind of do your thing with it. It's a good 5 cost with a relevant on hit, right? So if you have a pummel, you have 5, you have tunic, you have 2 blues, then you can kind of like build your own command and conquer and push a pretty good amount of damage. So I love this card. I've always liked this card. It's just, it's hard to find room, especially like now that we're playing just like good 2-card, 3-card math in this deck. Like this is just a little bit extra. It helps with your zealous belting. Can't really go wrong with it. It's not bad. It's a good filler card, right? Especially if you're at 35 blues. This kind of be like your 36, right? It's not bad. 2 unmovable. That's just to fill in the gaps. You know, it's 3 costs. It's a blue. It is decent in the mirror. It's decent into Azalea and whatnot. Any matchup that you want to have a little bit extra reacts, just put it in your blue slot. You got some freebie slot there, right? Then Warmongers. This card is broken in a lot of places, so this deck is a little bit softer to Azalea. This card is better. It makes that matchup a little bit better, right? It's pretty good in the Dash IO too, right? So if you get this like turn 1, you can just kind of play it, and then they're like, oh, I don't like that. Can't play my items. Can't do all this stuff. Can't crank. You know, it's not bad. There are some matchups. Bolton has been gaining some popularity. Funny enough, Bolton is on the card. You play it in the Bolton, right? Like, that's what you do. It's a non-attack, blocks their stuff, so they can't give their cards go again unless it's some of the newer cards that when you charge, they get a +1, so they can inherently get the go again, right? It's just a pretty good card overall. Of course, it hoses like Runeblade Ranger, like we said. So solid all in all. We're only playing 1 AB, so that is a soft spot that we have. We don't really need AB for anything other than Kano. So if you play against a Kano, you just lose. Like if it's a good Kano, you're actually just dead. So like, don't worry about it. Take your 40-minute lunch break at a tournament, call it a day, right? All right, let's talk about the matchup spread that we have here. So these are the ones that we're going to be going through. Actually, you can't see it on the recording for whatever reason. So we're going to go through Azalea just in alphabetical order, right? So Azalea, here we're playing the Steelbrave Buckler and the Titan's Fist. All the blocking armor, of course. Playing Choke Slams, right? That card is very good against any deck that wants to buff, obviously. So you're going to see that against Bolton as well, right? Playing the Pummels, Command and Conquer Pummel. We're trying to do that in many games, and this is one of the best ones to do that against, right? So we're playing the Disable, very good text against Azalea, of course. Playing the Unmovables, the Warmongers, and we're siding out the Rousey Agents because we are just not playing this card into them, and if we are, then we have already won the game, for the most part. So E-Strike, we don't really need these go again cards, and then Debilitate is the least effective out of the other cards that we brought in because we want the defense reactions against them. We don't want to be caught with our pants down, them with some decently big dominated arrow and not be able to cover that up, because we can stop a bunch of on hits like once or twice because of our armor suite and a well-timed sink below or favor scene in arsenal, just to be able to claw some tempo back and play Crippling Crush or Spinal or something along those lines. Most of the time too, for these decks, or for our deck, we are not really dominating a lot. We are waiting until that third Tunic counter, having a Crippling and 2 blues, and we are just playing it just like that. And so we're giving them an extra 3 to block. And one thing that I wanted to talk about before I went over into the matchup guide, I should have said, is a lot of people get hung up on not having the tech plating because they're losing 3 life, right? Well, you're actually only losing 2 life if you look at the card at base value. This is a 1 block, right? 1 block, of course. So 2 life. But if you really, really think about it, you have your 7, you have your 2 blues, you use your Tunic counter. What are you doing with that other card? If you have tech plating and you have that surge, great. But what if you didn't have the surge in that situation? You can like kind of know that because you know your previous turn if you had like floating resources to be able to make that surge. Let's say you didn't, okay? And then this follow-up turn, you block with the 3 block, and then you go Tunic counter into Crippling Crush, right? You basically gained your value, your equity from not having the tech plating immediately, just like on rip, right? So you're getting the block value from playing Tunic just because this card is crazy, right? Like, a lot of people say this card should be banned. I don't know if I disagree, you know? Like, this card is crazy. It's in every deck, and it's making Bravo a little bit better. So anyway, it's a different playstyle, of course. I still love tech plating, but let's continue. So we're playing all of these cards, playing Warmongers. Of course, you know, nothing really has to be said extra about this. You play this against Azalea at a proper time, and they will cry. So then all the D-reacts. So we're only playing 8 D-reacts. Very good into Azalea. Let's move on. Bolton, it is basically exactly the same. Surprise. The reasoning is these 2 block attacks, you know, they get their buff whenever they charge, and when you block with an attack, this card is basically a block 1. Horrible. So you don't want that. These other cards, there's some argument to playing like E-Strike or something into Bolton and whatnot over something like no, you always want the Choke Slam. Don't even listen to me. This is what you want to do. So Choke Slam, very good. Your Faper scenes are always like block 4s, as opposed to some of your, like, you kind of have to think about it this way. You're kind of turning into like a Phi deck when it comes to blocking when you're playing against Bolton, because your 3 blocks are 2 blocks, right? So just got to play around that. It's a very tricky matchup. You just kind of like block out their Lumina Ascensions, and everything else is just kind of efficiency. It's just when they play their Lumina Ascension, if you have a really good card or a really good hand that's efficient, that's like, you know, like Choke Slam blue and a Tunic, I'm not going to try to keep that and take some damage over that, especially if I can stop the on hit from like a Raiden with Lumina active. So yeah, tricky matchup. Not bad if you play it right. You just have to play it kind of mid-range tempo with them to an extent, right? Still a hard matchup. I do think it's like slightly unfavored to a very good Bolton. We have a very good one on team, of course, so we have some good experience there. All right, so let's talk about the Bravo Mirror. One thing a lot of people like to do in the past in the Bravo Mirror is just fat deck the list. Just play all the cards, you know, just get all these good cards in there. Like Choke Slam is a great card in the mirror because it's off of like a Surge. If you have tech plating, you get to 2 card 8, right? What the whole thing that we're trying to do. You do that more efficiently with tech plating in the mirror generally. But because we're not doing that, we need to slim down to 60. We're already on less blues than the normal lists, right? So we don't want to dilute the deck with more stuff. And then because we're on less blues, we get the value out of playing E-Strike. So if we do end up drawing an all-red hand, the likelihood that we draw an all-red hand without E-Strike is pretty low. So we can still block for 6 and then send the E-Strike back for 7. That is great math. It's exactly what we want to be doing anyway. So all the D-reacts, we're playing all of these. We side out Spinal. So that is not normal in these other matchups, but in this matchup, it's not that great. It's fine. It's decent against, or if you have a pummel, it's decent to like just slam that on there. But a lot of times you want to be blocking with 2 cards and just be efficient anyway. You save the pummel for your Command and Conquers or with your Zealous Belting Tunic, right? So let's do the math on this real quick. So Zealous Belting, you pitch Buckling below, you have 1 floating. Okay, it has go again. You have Tunic counter. You use the Tunic counter. Pummel it. Now you still have your blue left in hand. You can go in for 6. So that's 9 plus 6, 15 damage turn plus a disruption card. That's probably a value of about 18 for that turn. That's ridiculous off 4 cards, right? That's how you win these games. So these go again cards, playing those properly without taking an insane amount of damage, just, you know, winning every single turn cycle is how you win these mirrors. We don't play Warmongers. It does not turn on Anathos. We are playing the Big Hammer in this matchup, of course. And then Starstruck, the on-hit of this actually, like, literally doesn't matter most of the time. If you give them, if they're throwing a Starstruck into you dominated and you give them a 3 block, you have so many cards that you get to play through that. Like your Debilitate, you get to play any of these like 8s, right? You have your Disable. You get to play your Crippling Crush. Like, most of the time, it just doesn't matter, right? So we just cut that to be able to make our ratios right. One of my favorite things to do is if I have a pretty significant life lead, my opponent dominates a Starstruck, you know, spends all of their resources doing this. I have a hand that's like Crippling Crush or whatever, you know, and it's just like, yeah, okay, I'll take your 10, whatever, you know, and then here's my Crippling Crush. Like, you did nothing, so it's pretty funny. Card is not bad though. If you're playing Tech Plating, I do think it's pretty good to play it because you get to block with this and get the Unity trigger from here to get a Surge if you don't already have the Surge to be able to play something like a Choke Slam or Debilitate. Card is not bad, it's just with this, it's one of the cards you want to cut in the mirror to be able to slim down to 60. Okay, Dash IE, this is the original Dash, excuse me. Okay, so Dash IE, this is a pretty hard matchup. Civic Steps, while being an amazing piece of equipment, it is very bad against Mechanologist if you do not time it right. You have to time it in a specific moment to where it basically becomes a Crater Fist, where you know it's a block 2 and then the block 1. It's hard to do that, especially against a good Mechanologist player. So what we're trying to do in this matchup, we're just trying to hit them hard, you know, kill them quick. Because a lot of times they are going to be playing Boost Dash, or not Boost Dash, Switch Dash. So they're going to be playing the pistol plan, and we will generally lose that. Especially if the game goes long, we are just up. So what we're doing against them is we're trying to find very efficient pummel lines. There's a lot of times where I will, you know, arsenal something like an E-Strike or Zealous Belting waiting for another turn that I can really set up and just go like E-Strike into Spinal or something along those lines. Something like very efficient, right? But one of my favorite plays in this matchup that I kind of look out for, if it's not like Zealous Belting, pummel it, and then hammer, is I will go Zealous Belting, go again, into E-Strike, go again, into hammer attack for 6, just pushing as much damage as possible. You just go burr, and a lot of times they'll just roll over and die. Right? They can't set up quick enough if we have our damage output that we're looking for. Okay, so we're playing Unmovable in this matchup only because it turns on the hammer. Again, we don't want these cards because they do not turn the hammer on because we're playing the big hammer. We are not playing it in defense reactions, and then Choke Slam, the text on it like actually just does nothing. So you might as well play Debilitate out of these two cards because it does prevent 2 damage. It kind of heals you for 2, right? So not bad. Dash IO, this one is very weird to me. I still have not figured out exactly how I want to play against this. So this is the one I was getting mixed up with Bolton about playing E-Strike over the Debilitate for, because there are situations where I've drawn some red hands and you know, they just set up or something like that, and having an E-Strike would have been very efficient. But because we have the small hammer and pitching 3 reds to swing 4, that's that feels bad. So anyway, I think Debilitate is where you want to be because it is an easy pummel target. So if they do take a turn to say, you know, hey, I'm going to set up, then if you happen to draw the hand that's pummel Debilitate, then you get to pressure a pretty good amount. They usually don't block something like a Debilitate, so being able to rip a card out of them is good. Imagine if this was E-Strike, it would literally do nothing. So they would take it, you couldn't pummel it, you know. It is what it is. So I play this matchup pretty mid-ranging now. I used to try to like fatigue them, and I think you can do that against lesser experienced Dash IOs. But I think in general you have to have a little bit of back and forth with them. So of course, if they have a boom grenade or something along those lines, you should probably block that out. There's no reason to take just a bunch of damage out of nowhere. But, you know, swapping looks with them to an extent, you know, stopping their on hits, taking some of their vanilla damage, I think that's generally fine and will net you some EV in the matchup, right? So no Choke Slam in this. The only thing that they really buff off of is like a Teklo Pounder if they're even playing that out. I can't think of any other cards besides BIOS Update, and not all lists are playing that. So the Debilitate just inherently will always have some text against them. Again, E-Strike, we don't really need the go-agains because we're not trying to go really wide. And then these 2 blocks, you're going to want your 3 blocks to be able to cover up those 5s with your armor when they have a bunch of boom grenades out. So, tricky matchup. I do think it's slightly Bravo favorite. So, just, play tight just like every other matchup, and you'll be fine. Now we're going into the realm of Dory, Riptide, Teklo, and Arachne. I kind of group all of those together because all the cards are being played. I'm playing all 72. The reason I'm doing that for Dory is if they're playing the Axe build, you have to have those cards. You need these cards or you're going to get fatigued. Same thing with Riptide, Teklo, and Arachne. Teklo, you probably can go more aggressive into. I don't know how to play that matchup yet. I'm going to be completely honest with you. That matchup is so tricky, and there's so many different builds of it yet because the deck isn't that popular. So it's just a rogue deck. You don't really know what to do, and they have a benefit into you for doing that. So if they ever land something like the Singularity, you're going to have a rough time. But all these other matchups, you just play your hands as efficiently as you can, block out when you can, play your cards when you can. This is probably not what the Wolfpack did and what Michael Hamilton did playing the 72 cards, but at least against Dory, I don't think that you can really afford to play less cards if they're doing the Great Axe build. That matchup is just bad. I think this is the hedge to do that. And then Riptide, against Riptide, you're not really swinging your hammer for 6 until you know all of their traps that buff or that trigger off of the buffs are gone out of their deck. So you just swing this for 4. This is the reason you don't play Titan's Fist, because anytime you pitch a blue in this deck, you're going to get the buff and you're going to give them free value off the traps. So you don't really want to do that. And then Arachne, the reason I want to play more cards into Arachne is if it allows me to just not block some of the stuff that really doesn't matter. So I can afford to just let them mill me a good amount and still be ahead if the game does end up going to fatigue. So I'm curious what you guys think. Of course, comment down below. Let me know if you disagree on this and anything else that I talked about, of course. I'm pretty confident in these other sideboard plans, but this one I'm definitely a little fuzzy on. So happy to help each other improve. All right, let's talk about Dromai. We're playing Northern Boots because they play Burn Them All and whatnot. We are playing Chokeslam, Debilitate. We're just playing all of these good cards. We're not playing any of these reacts here. And we're going down to 33. This is our first matchup where we go to 33 blues. Don't want to mess around. We just want to hit them, do our thing, playing all the go-again attacks. And my goal in this matchup is to just kill them as quickly as possible, within reason. They play a mirror guy, they play a passing, you're hitting that stuff, right? If you have the opportunity to arsenal a go-again card and not just burn it, I'm going to do that, right? You're just playing intelligently. You're trying to get a key pummel turn off of their Command and Conquer or the Spinal. They don't play a lot of armor anymore because they're playing Tome. And if they happen to draw a Tome turn, and you just play a Spinal with Tunic counter up and you're ready to pummel that, they have a hard time trying to figure out what to do. So, yeah, that's pretty much it on this one. If you get to the in-game states where they have Chromite Dust and all that stuff, you can pivot to Fatigue. It just kind of can happen if you have been clearing some of their board just based on the way the game has gone, because it can go one way or another just based on the efficiency and whatnot that you're playing. You can do that. Look out for that as well. So I'm on 61 cards. Let me make sure that we're good there. Yeah, I think you want every single one of these cards. You could side out one of these to go down to 60 if you wanted to, one of these Debilitates or whatnot. We are also playing 40 poppers in this matchup, so you should pretty much every single hand have something to be able to stop their turn and be able to, keep the aggression up. So, all in all, not bad. I've won the majority of my Dromai games, if not all of them. I think I've lost maybe one against Nathan, but yeah, all in all, pretty good. The whole reason now that we went to the Tunic style of Bravo is because we expected a lot of Fi to be at the realm. A lot of Fi, a lot of Ninja in general, Katsu as well. So we just, in the past, playing tech plating and whatnot, Fi has not been a great matchup. I personally have struggled very well. I know some of the Bravo people in like the Bravo chat on the Purple Discord and in our Bravo chat in just like our joint Discord and whatnot. A lot of them have good success into 5, and happy for them. I don't know how they do it. So when I started playing this, I started winning pretty much all of my Ninja matchups as long as I didn't just like completely fumble, right? You know, just like make a inherent misplay, like, or like a blocking misstep or something like that. It's close. It's a very close matchup, but I think this is Bravo favored now with this style list. So here we're also playing 33 blues, very close to Dromai, but we're not playing these go again cards. We don't really care about this disable as much, and we don't need the unmovable or the warmongers. Okay, so we're playing all of these efficient reds. We're playing our blocks here. This is similar to Katsu too. Like, these are even more important against Katsu because they have all their combat tricks and what's going on. So the whole plan with this matchup is you are blocking their mask momentum trigger. Most of the time they're playing mask momentum, and you are just sending back something that's relevant, and you're trying to win the turn cycle. So it's just better, efficient math. And if you could line up a pummel play, especially with Spinal, you would prefer this over a Command and Conquer play. If you can do that, the game feels like you basically can't lose unless they just high roll the crap out of you. Command and Conquer play, of course, is good too, but a lot of times a smart Fi is not going to keep an arsenal like ever until they have specifically a sink below or a book end, like a lava burst or a breaking point if they play that, or whatever the card is. No, any of those that are a snatch is another good example. Like, if they have a couple of those cards in their hand, they have like a lava burst and a snatch. A lot of times they will, of course, play one at the end of their turn and then arsenal the other. Right, so if you can get that, and you can get that read on them, then keeping a Command and Conquer and a pummel is great. So one example in this situation is if you have 2 blues, you have Command and Conquer and a pummel, and your Tunic counter's coming up, or you already have it on 3. You're keeping your hands and whatnot, right? Like you stop their mask and momentum trigger, you blocked with one of your blues. You're ready to go. You still have the right math to be able to Command and Conquer pummel. Okay, their last card. You know, they do all their go against stuff. Their last card, they don't end up arsenaling it. It's a snatch now, right? This is a situation where I block with the Command and Conquer and a piece of armor to deny them getting an arsenal or something along those lines, stop the damage, and then I'm just going to swing hammer back, put the pummel in arsenal, and then wait, because I know I'm going to draw one of these gas cards because we're just playing a bunch of gas, right? So, just one example. It's all contextual, of course, you know, just use your best judgment, and I think if you play right, you should be winning all of these Ninja games. Okay, we'll talk about Kano very briefly. Like I said, it's like actually just impossible against a good Kano, so we're not playing any of the reacts. There's no reason to play any more blues because we don't have a ton of AV. We're only playing the one. Chokeslam has no text, same as Debilitate. I play Debilitate because I have pink ones. That is the only reason. If there was any other available card, I would play it, but no, because of the way the deck's built, we're not doing that. I guess you could technically play Warmongers, but I would rather have like just 8 damage. Maybe that's right, I don't know. But regardless, I don't think your decisions will matter unless you just have the nuts like Command and Conquer pummel, Command and Conquer pummel, Command and Conquer pummel, like back to back to back, and then like Crippling Crush dominated, and then they try to go off, but they had a bunch of reds in their hand. You know what I'm saying? So, of course, don't just like concede or anything, but this matchup is like 90-10, if not worse. So, everything else is fine, though. You know, you make concessions in certain matchups to be good in others. It just is what it is. Okay, so talking about Katsu, this is basically the same I'm playing more defense reactions and then the disable here, right? Because a lot of times you can set an unmovable at Arsenal against Katsu just as like an insurance play, and if they do just have the natty combo, you're gonna want your defense reaction. So I think this is solid. 35 blues in this matchup. Chokeslams are likely just a little bit better than Debilitate, just because they are always playing Kadachi against Spy. They're playing Emberblade every once in a while. Debilitate, good into just good in general. This gets more value, and giving -2 to a Kadachi, it's not that good. This is not that good. This at least will generally, it'll make it to where they can't combat trick you, and that's big value. You know, you don't have to like do all these mind games anymore if you actually get the crush off this card. Okay, so Levia, I've gotten mixed viewpoints about this matchup. As, is it Bravo favored? Is it Levia favored? I think it's just close, just in general. I do think the matchup can be difficult, but if you know, get some efficient hands and whatnot, and you don't just get Blood Rush Bellows out of the game. This matchup is pretty close, right? You know, if they have a normal game and you have a normal game, I think the matchup is just like pretty skill dependent. So we're playing Buckler, we're playing the defense reactions, playing Debilitate. There's no reason really to play Chokeslam because you're really only getting -2 to one of their attacks on their Blood Rush turn, right? Well, this always gives -2 anyway, right? So if they don't have a Blood Rush turn, like Chokeslam actually does nothing. So we're playing Debilitate into that. Paper Scene, Sink Below. You just want to be able to block efficiently, come back with your efficient turns. You know, playing Debilitate off of your Tunic counter, your Command and Conquer. Just, you can bluff, pummel here and there, especially if they already have, like, if they haven't used their Carrion Husk, you can force their Carrion Husk out of their equipment slot and just get the block value out of that, even if you don't have the pummel, just because of how like threatening this card can be. Especially if you have an Arsenal setup, you pitched, you have the Tunic resource floating, they can't flesh bag it out of your hand because it's in your arsenal, right? Whether it is or not, and it'll force them to make like a Husk play, and they can't afford to give you more cards because they're expecting to discard type thing, right? So just look for those lines, and like I said, I don't think it's that bad. This one is pretty bad. Max, not the greatest. I play as aggressively as possible, just kind of like you're playing against the original Dash. Just try to push them out of the game. We don't play Buckle, but a lot of times what's nice is that because Buckle exists, they have to not block with their equipment. Unless they just happen to know, like, based on the previous rounds that you're not on Buckle. So, you know, like, try to conceal that information if you can. Because a lot of Bravos are playing Buckle. And Buckle, if they block with their armor before they have the mech assembled, or are about to assemble the mech, they will actually just, you know, lose the game, right? So, you just get, like, free value out of playing this hero in general by the possibility of being able to play Buckle, that you can just kind of push them out of the game. Dominating Crippling Crush, also like big value. So because of that reason, you could dominate a Crippling Crush and it's probably just gonna happen, right? Because they don't want to give you the armor, because if they do and you Buckle them, they die. So yeah, so you're just playing all these cards that you normally do. Playing the Unmovable, it's basically exactly the same as the Dash sideboard. And yeah, you just smack them. You play a little bit more mid-rangey at this because they do kind of hit you back a little bit. But talking about Prism, so this matchup is also pretty bad. Not as bad as Kano, because you can just kill them because they start at 32 life, right? So because we have a lot more damage output and efficiency in this list, you're able to go E-Strike and Zealous Belting, kind of like the Switch Dash. And you can just kind of kill them, right? So this matchup, you will lose more times to your inexperience on what auras to clear than you will just, you know, not being able to get there on damage output. So You know, if they play a Genesis, you should probably kill that. If they play a haze bending, depending on the situation, you should probably kill that type thing. You're not trying to aura clear, but you are clearing the auras that matter. You know, especially the early ones, depending on their value throughout the game, like what they're going to get them. So, like the one that buffs for +2 on their Phantasm attack, you don't really care about that one. Now, when they play a Passing Barrage and they have that, that's when it becomes a little sketchy. So, like, this is a very technical matchup. Just, again, best judgment. But a lot of times, if you can get them down to, like, sub 20, you can just kind of start ignoring things. Especially if that's the point that they play their haze bending. You can just go smack face, and they, a lot of times, just won't be able to stop it because they have all of these auras that don't block. There are instant speed auras, or they have the 2 block auras, which... obviously, that's not a good blocking number on these crush effects. You don't want to be doing that. So you can just kind of get there. They're at 32 life. Just close the game out quick. All right, talking about Rhinar. We do not play Small Hammer or Buckler into Rhinar. We play Anathos, and we're playing a little bit more on these Zealous Buildings. I used to be a Sync Below FABREC gamer into Rhinar, but as of late, I have shifted kind of my thought process for this matchup. The reason being is before, Rhinar was playing things like Wild Ride and Pulping. They were playing a bunch of like Go Again extenders, and you know what's good against Pulping? A well-timed Sync Blow in your arsenal, right? So I was doing that, blowing out Rhinars left and right. Well, now a lot of Rhinars are playing a bunch of 3 blocks. They're not playing these like no block cards that have Go Again. And they're kind of rolling scabs and doing this thing. So like the Sync Belows aren't as just like critical in your arsenal anymore, where you would rather be playing something like a Pummel or a Zealous Belting in your arsenal, like put that down. And if you end up drawing the Sync Below and they intimidate it away and you can't play your arsenal for whatever reason, that card is, you just IP 1 yourself, or not 1, but IP 3 yourself, right? Like you only get to play with a 3-card hand if you would not block because they got rid of your Sync Below, which is a card that you want to block with. So there is kind of a liability to playing this. Same reasoning for Choke Slam. We don't want to, like as the Leviah matchup, we don't really see a lot of value out of this, where we always see value out of Debilitate hitting. And then Zealous Belting, you know, same with the Sync Below. You know, if that gets intimidated away, well, this card you can actually like play on your next turn. That's pretty solid. So Nathan convinced me on like making that switch. I've liked it to an extent. I don't really play against Rhinar that much. I've only played like maybe a couple of games, but it's been pretty good. So I'm not too upset about that. All right, we're almost there. We're in the home stretch. So we got Runeblade. With Runeblade, we're playing the AB, of course. I'm playing the Steelblade Buckler and the Fist, because against something like Viscerite, I know Viscerite has fallen off the map, but that matchup is like actually pretty hard. So against Viscerite, we are playing, or just Runeblade in general, we're playing Warmonger's Diplomacy, because that card is like actually insane. They want to go non-attack into attack. This stops that, right? Card's insane. Into these matchups, it's just kind of like the auto win button. If you need tempo, they've been like smacking you around, you go Warmongers, and they're like, yeah, that's not good. So we're taking out Rousey Ancients in this case because we want the defense reactions. We want the Warmongers, and then E-Strike, not really necessary. The Go Again cards here. So basically all the Go Again cards. And you don't need all of the Fate Scenes because you're playing some of these unmovables. Against Min Set, a lot of them like to play Pummel, so you do want these over, let's say, like 2 Rousey Inches or something along those lines. And then having like some Pummel insurance with your Sync Below, just pop it in Arsenal, wait around for it if, like I said, you're playing against a Min Set. A lot of people get worried about playing against the Widespread Destruction. If they play that, just play your arsenal. It's pretty straightforward. So, last but not least, playing against Azuri. Okay, this is the 5th matchup. We're playing a little bit more than 60. We're playing 65. We like the defense reactions. We're playing E-Strike because we're playing more cards. So when we get those all red hands, we can still like have a pretty relevant turn. Zealous Belting, of course, is very good with Anathos, so we're playing that. The only cards that we're not playing are the Chokeslams, Debilitates, and Disables. So Chokeslam doesn't really do anything, right? So if they have a cut down to size or something, then sure, you got them, right? But they don't. A lot of times they're not going to be playing that very often. If they do, you're not able to line it up as well as you want. Then Debilitate's pretty good because you can stop their Spider's Bite or something along those lines. So if they wanted to lead off with that, that's fine. But then, if they're not going to Spider's Bite, what are they going to do? They're going to play an Isolate. Okay, well, you can block with a card. Then they swap something in. Well, your Debilitate trigger's gone. So like it actually just did nothing. So that's kind of my thought process here. This is another weird one that I'm not like super confident in the board plan. You don't really need the Disable. So Arsenal Disruption obviously is very good, especially against a deck that is playing Ponders and whatnot. But I don't believe it's necessary, especially since we're already playing more than 65. We don't want to dilute any more than we already have. And then because we're not playing these Chokeslams and Debilitate, I think it is important to have your Starstrucks in here instead of siding those out. That's one thing that you might be able to do if you wanted to. You take out Starstruck for your Debilitates just to have a little bit lower curve here. But just being able to play Tunic counter, 2-card Starstruck, like this is a forced block into them. They can't play their stealth cards whenever this crushes, right? So you're gonna get 2 to 3 cards out of them, or a defense reaction or something along those lines. So yeah, that is everything that I can think of out of all of these matchups. So looking at the results, I haven't played a whole lot of this specifically, but I have another list that I've been playing, kind of like a copied list where I've been changing some of the stuff. Probably played, I don't know, 30 games with that, and I have like a 90-something% win rate. So the list is good. It's not the same as old Bravo. So don't get stuck in your old ways of thinking. Kind of adapt, It's just a good math the deck. That's really all it is. I really enjoy this playstyle. I kind of miss playing some Oldhim, to be honest with you. Especially the Oldhim where we had Vambrace and Anathos in the sideboard. And it was basically just playing like Grumpy Bravo is kind of what I called it. So it was just Old Man Bravo. We were playing all the Bravo cards, but you have Crown of Seas. So like that was super fun to me. This kind of reminds me of that because you're playing your Tunic and you're playing your good math. It's just you don't have the crutch of leaning on the best headpiece in the game. So again, I hope you guys enjoy. If you have any questions, please comment below or join our Discord. Go to the Patreon side. We'll answer those. We'll play games with you. Do whatever you want. Appreciate our sponsors, Dragon Shield, Card Culture, FABREC.tg, for letting us do all these fun and amazing videos. And we will see you guys next time. Thanks.